The city streets pulsed with urgency as Dr. Marcus Reed's black sedan sped through the late-night traffic. Inside, his hands gripped the wheel with practiced steadiness, though his heart raced with a different kind of pressure. An emergency call had dragged him from his half-eaten dinner. A young girl lay in critical condition at the hospital, her life hanging by a thread. He was the only pediatric neurosurgeon on call. Every minute lost could be fatal. Blue light suddenly flared in his rearview mirror. A police cruiser swung in behind him, siren wailing, demanding he pull over. Marcus's chest tightened. Not now. Not tonight. He tapped the Bluetooth and barked into his phone. "Tell the OR team I'm 5 minutes away. Prep her now." His voice trembled with urgency. Slowing, he pulled his car to the side, lowering the window as the cruiser stopped behind him. A tall white officer approached, flashlight glaring into Marcus's eyes. "License and registration," the cop barked, eyes narrowing. "Officer," Marcus began calmly, "I'm a surgeon. I'm on my way to perform emergency surgery. A child's life is at stake. Please, I don't have time." The cop's jaw tightened, his gaze sweeping over Marcus's brown skin, sharp suit and expensive car. His tone hardened. "Step out of the vehicle." Marcus froze, frustration boiling in his chest. "Sir, please, this is life or death. Call the hospital if you don't believe me." The officer leaned closer, sneering. "You think speeding through my streets makes you above the law? I don't care what story you've got. Out. Now." Marcus's pulse pounded. Every tick of the clock was another second the little girl's life slipped away. What he said, or didn't say, next could decide both their fates. Marcus stepped out of the car slowly, his eyes fixed on the officer. His phone buzzed on the seat, another call from the hospital, but the officer snatched it before he could reach. "Hands on the hood," the cop ordered sharply. Marcus obeyed, jaw clenched. "Officer, that phone is from the hospital. They're waiting for me to save a child's life. You're wasting time we don't have." The cop smirked. "Funny how all you people got some kind of excuse. Surgeon, really? What are you doing in a car like this then?" He gestured at Marcus's luxury sedan like it was stolen property. Marcus swallowed his anger. This wasn't the first time someone had judged him by his skin instead of his credentials, but tonight the stakes were different. He could almost hear the beeping monitors of that little girl's hospital bed slowing with each passing second. "Please," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "A 9-year-old is dying. Let me go." But the officer shook his head, deliberately taking his time checking Marcus's license. He called something into his radio, speaking slowly, dragging each syllable like he enjoyed watching Marcus squirm. "You're shaking, Doc. Nervous about something? Drugs, maybe? Or maybe this car doesn't belong to you?" Marcus wanted to scream, to shove past the officer, to run to his car and floor the accelerator. But he knew any sudden move could end with him face down on the pavement, or worse. So he stood there, every second searing into his chest like fire. At the hospital, a team of nurses hovered over the little girl. The anesthesiologist kept checking his watch, sweat forming on his brow. "Where's Dr. Reed?" one nurse whispered urgently. But Dr. Reed was stuck on the roadside, trapped by prejudice, while a child's life slipped further away. The flashing police lights painted the empty street in red and blue, but to Marcus it felt like a prison cage. His chest heaved as he forced himself to breathe evenly. Losing control wasn't an option. The officer leaned against the hood, pretending to scrutinize Marcus's license. "Marcus Reed," he read aloud mockingly. "Says here you're a doctor. You expect me to believe that?" He chuckled, shaking his head. Marcus's fists clenched. "Check with the hospital, St. Mary's. They'll confirm it." "I'm the only pediatric neurosurgeon on duty. Please call them." But the officer just smirked. "Relax. You'll get where you're going." Eventually, at that same moment, inside St. Mary's Hospital, the tension was unbearable. Nurses whispered about how long they could keep the little girl stable. Her parents paced the waiting area, eyes red with tears, clinging to each other for strength. "Why isn't the surgeon here yet?" the mother cried out. "Where is he?" Back on the street, Marcus tried again, his voice trembling but steady. "Officer, I swore an oath to save lives. Right now, a little girl's life depends on me. If you keep me here, she could die." The cop's expression hardened. "You don't give me orders. Around here, I decide what happens, and right now what happens is you waiting until I'm satisfied." Marcus's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about a traffic stop, it was about control, about a man in uniform flexing power over someone he didn't respect. Every passing moment felt like a countdown. Marcus closed his eyes for a split second and whispered to himself, "Hold on, little one, I'm coming." But the truth gnawed at him. If he didn't find a way past this officer soon, he might be too late. Marcus felt sweat bead on his forehead, despite the cool night air. He wasn't just fighting the clock, he was fighting the stubborn pride of a man who refused to see past his own bias. The officer circled Marcus's car, shining his flashlight inside, as if searching for a reason to escalate. "What's this?" he muttered, eyeing the stethoscope on the passenger seat. He picked it up, twirling it in his hand. "Trying to play doctor tonight?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "That stethoscope is mine. I don't have time for this. Please, call dispatch, call the hospital, call anyone. Just let me through." But the cop smirked. "You people always got a story. How about you just admit you were speeding and maybe lying about the rest?" Marcus's patience cracked. "A little girl is dying." His voice thundered through the night, startling even himself. "If she doesn't get surgery now, her parents will lose her. And you'll be the reason." For a brief second, the officer faltered, his flashlight lowering slightly. Marcus seized the moment. "Do you really want her blood on your hands? Do you want to explain to her parents why she didn't make it?" The silence was heavy. Somewhere in the distance, an ambulance wailed, its sound fading into the night. The officer's eyes hardened again. "Don't try to guilt me. You think you can scare me into letting you go?" Marcus's pulse pounded like a war drum. He knew he was standing on dangerous ground, pushed too hard, and this cop could arrest him, ruin any chance of reaching the hospital in time. But if he stayed silent, the girl's fate was sealed. It was a gamble Marcus had no choice but to take. Marcus's car phone, still in the officer's hand, buzzed again, this time insistently. The officer glanced at the caller ID, St. Mary's Hospital. His brow furrowed. Marcus's heart leapt. "Answer it. That's the hospital. They'll tell you who I am. They'll tell you a child is dying." The officer hesitated, thumb hovering over the green button. Then, almost spitefully, he declined the call. The phone went silent. Marcus's chest tightened with fury and despair. "You just silenced them?" The officer shrugged, pocketing the phone. "Not my problem." Meanwhile, at St. Mary's, chaos brewed. The anesthesiologist dialed again, his voice shaking as he spoke to the head nurse. "If Dr. Reed doesn't get here in the next 10 minutes, she might not make it. We can't hold her stable forever." The child's parents overheard. The mother collapsed into sobs, clutching her husband's arm. "Where is he?" she cried. On the roadside, Marcus closed his eyes briefly, thinking of that little girl, her parents, the OR team, waiting, helpless. He felt his control slipping. "Officer," he said again, quieter this time, "please, don't let your pride kill a child." But the cop crossed his arms, expression cold. "You people always think the rules don't apply to you. Well, tonight, I'm the rule." For a moment, Marcus considered making a run for it, grabbing his phone, jumping into the car, speeding off. But he knew the risk, a chase, flashing lights, maybe even bullets. Then, fate intervened. Another set of headlights appeared, slowing as a second police cruiser pulled up behind them. A different officer stepped out, younger, alert, scanning the scene. Marcus's hope flickered. Maybe, just maybe, someone else would listen. The younger officer approached cautiously, eyes shifting between Marcus and his colleague. "Everything okay here, Sergeant?" he asked, his tone careful. The older cop smirked. "Just dealing with a speeder who thinks he's some kind of brain surgeon." He tossed Marcus's license toward the younger man, claiming he's rushing to the hospital. "Story sound familiar?" The younger officer studied Marcus closely. Unlike the hardened sneer of the sergeant, his gaze carried curiosity, even concern. "Sir, is that true?" he asked Marcus directly. Marcus seized the opportunity. "Yes, I'm Dr. Marcus Reed. I'm a pediatric neurosurgeon. A 9-year-old girl is dying at St. Mary's. I need to get there now. Please, call the hospital. They'll confirm everything." His voice cracked with desperation. The younger officer hesitated, pulling out his radio. But the sergeant barked, "Don't waste your time. He's playing us. Look at the car, the suit. Doesn't add up. Or maybe it does," the younger officer shot back, irritation flashing in his eyes. "Ever think of that?" He raised the radio to his mouth. Dispatch, can you confirm if Dr. Marcus Reed is expected at St. Mary's ER right now? Static buzzed for a moment, then the reply came through. Affirmative. Dr. Reed has been paged repeatedly. Patient is critical, or staff requesting his immediate arrival. Marcus exhaled sharply, relief flooding him. He turned to the sergeant. Now will you let me go? The older cop's face twisted with anger. His authority had been undermined. But before he could respond, the younger officer stepped forward. Sir, get back in your car. I'll escort you to the hospital myself. Marcus didn't waste another second. He jumped into his car, heart pounding with renewed hope. Time was still against him, but at last he was moving. The younger officer's cruiser surged ahead, lights flashing, clearing a path through the late-night traffic. Marcus gripped the steering wheel tightly, his foot pressing hard on the gas as he followed close behind. The city blurred around him, but all he could see in his mind was the small, fragile body of a girl fighting for her life. Every intersection felt like an eternity. Sirens wailed, horns blared, and Marcus prayed silently, "Hold on, little one, I'm coming." Back at the hospital, the girl's condition was spiraling. The heart monitor beeped erratically, alarms shrieking. Nurses scrambled, and the anesthesiologist shouted, "We're losing her!" Her mother pressed against the OR doors, sobbing into her husband's chest. Why isn't he here yet? Why isn't anyone helping my baby? Inside his car, Marcus's phone buzzed again, this time safely back in his possession. He tapped the speaker. It was the head nurse. "Dr. Reed, she's crashing. We need you now. I'm 2 minutes out," Marcus shouted, voice shaking. "Prep everything. I'm running in as soon as I arrive. Don't let her slip away." The younger officer's cruiser screeched into the hospital driveway, and Marcus pulled up right behind him. He didn't even bother to lock the car. He bolted out, white coat flapping from the back seat, and sprinted through the ER doors. "Dr. Reed is here," a nurse cried out, and the hallway seemed to split open for him, staff moving aside, hope sparking in weary eyes. Marcus burst into the OR, scrubbing in as fast as his shaking hands would allow. "Scalpel," he commanded, eyes blazing with focus. "We're not losing her tonight." But deep down he knew the delay had cost them precious time, and it was going to be the hardest fight of his career. The OR filled with silence as Marcus steadied his trembling hands. The girl lay motionless under the bright surgical lights, her tiny chest rising weakly with each assisted breath. The anesthesiologist's eyes met his, grim but trusting. "Her pressure is dropping fast," a nurse warned. Marcus nodded. Scalpel, the cold steel touched his gloved hand, and with precision honed over years, he made the first incision. Every movement had to be perfect. There was no room for doubt, but as he worked, flashes of the roadside confrontation tore through his concentration, the sneering officer, the wasted minutes, the silent phone. Each memory was a blade pressing against his resolve. He pushed them aside. This moment wasn't about him, it was about her. "Clamp, suction," Marcus ordered, his voice sharpening with focus. The team moved like clockwork, following his rhythm. The monitors beeped erratically. Then one alarm screamed. "She's crashing again!" the anesthesiologist cried. Marcus leaned closer, sweat dripping beneath his mask. "Stay with me, sweetheart. Stay with me." He wasn't just fighting for her life now. He was fighting to prove that every second lost outside wouldn't be the reason she never woke up again. The flatline tone pierced the room, shrill and merciless. Everyone froze for half a second, their eyes darting to Marcus. "Start compressions," he barked, refusing to let panic win. A nurse moved in, hands pressing rhythmically on the girl's fragile chest. Marcus's mind raced. He had seconds, only seconds, to bring her back. His fingers moved with surgical fury, isolating the bleed that had pushed her brain to the edge of catastrophe. "Epinephrine now!" he shouted. A syringe was pressed into his hand, and he injected it without hesitation. For a moment, the silence felt like eternity. The flatline still wailed, tearing through his soul. Then, beep, a flicker, another beep. The faintest rhythm returned on the monitor. The team exhaled in unison, but Marcus didn't slow. "She's not safe yet," he warned. "Keep going. We finish this now." Inside, though, his chest ached. The truth was brutal. Had he arrived sooner, she wouldn't have gone this close to death. And though he was fighting with every ounce of skill he had, he knew one thing. If she didn't make it, the blame wouldn't just lie in the OR. It would lie back on that roadside. The monitors beeped in fragile rhythm, each sound like a lifeline Marcus refused to let go of. His hands moved steadily, sealing the source of the bleed with painstaking precision. Vitals stabilizing, the anesthesiologist reported, though his voice carried hesitation. But she's still weak. Marcus didn't look up. She's a fighter. We just need to give her a chance. The room was tense, everyone holding their breath, watching the surgeon battle not just biology, but the consequences of delay. The head nurse whispered to another, if he hadn't made it in time. She didn't finish the thought. Marcus finally tied the last suture, pulling back slightly to check the monitor. The heartbeat steadied, slow, fragile, but steady. Relief swept across the OR. She's not out of the woods yet, Marcus said firmly, but she's alive. The team exchanged exhausted but hopeful glances. As Marcus removed his gloves, his legs nearly gave out from the flood of adrenaline. He closed his eyes briefly, whispering a silent prayer of gratitude. But his relief was mixed with rage. A little girl had come within seconds of dying, not because of medicine, not because of fate, but because of a cop's prejudice. And Marcus knew this wasn't over. The OR doors swung open, and Marcus stepped out, still in his scrubs, face damp with sweat. Waiting just beyond were the girl's parents, their eyes swollen from crying. "Doctor," the mother whispered, clutching her husband's arm. Marcus gave a weary but steady nod. She made it through the surgery. She's stable for now. It'll be a long recovery, but she's alive. The mother collapsed against him, sobbing into his chest. Her husband gripped Marcus's hand tightly, voice breaking. "Thank you. Thank you for saving our little girl." Marcus swallowed hard, his throat thick. He wanted to take comfort in their gratitude, but the truth gnawed at him. She had nearly died, not because medicine had failed, but because he had been stopped, delayed, judged. He gently pulled back, steadying his tone. "She's strong. Visit her when she's moved to recovery, but give us time to monitor her closely." As the parents nodded through tears, Marcus caught sight of the younger officer standing discreetly at the end of the hallway, his expression filled with guilt and respect. But the sergeant was nowhere to be seen. Marcus's relief hardened into resolve. Someone had to answer for what almost happened tonight. Marcus found the younger officer waiting near the hospital entrance, his cruiser still idling outside. Their eyes met, and for a moment, silence spoke louder than words. "I'm sorry," the young officer said finally, voice low. "If I hadn't shown up, you might never have made it here." Marcus nodded slowly. "You did the right thing. But your partner—" His tone sharpened. "He nearly cost that little girl her life." The officer looked down, guilt flickering across his face. "Sergeant Collins. He's been like that for years, power trips, profiling. Most of us just look the other way." Marcus's chest tightened. "Looking the other way nearly killed a child tonight." His words landed like a blade. The officer straightened, determination hardening his features. "You're right. I'll file a report. I'll back you up if you decide to press charges. What he did wasn't just unprofessional, it was criminal." Marcus studied him, weighing the sincerity in his eyes. Finally, he gave a short nod. "Then let's make sure he never does this to anyone else again." For the first time that night, Marcus felt a flicker of justice forming, but he knew the fight ahead would be just as grueling as the one in the OR. The hospital's conference room was dim, its fluorescent lights buzzing faintly as Marcus sat across from the younger officer. A notepad lay in front of him, blank except for the officer's trembling handwriting. "Everything that happened," Marcus said firmly, "every word, every delay. Don't leave anything out." The officer nodded, recounting the stop, the flashing lights, the insults, the refusal to answer the hospital's call, each detail cut deeper, confirming the rage Marcus carried. When he finished, Marcus leaned back, exhaustion etched on his face. "A child almost died tonight, not because of her condition, but because of prejudice. That has to be in your report." The officer swallowed. "It will be. But Collins has friends in the department. This won't be easy." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Nothing about this is easy. But if we stay silent, the next person might not get a second chance." The younger man straightened, resolve firming. "Then I'm with you. We'll take this to internal affairs." For the first time since the night began, Marcus felt more than anger. He felt purpose. This wasn't just about one girl's life anymore. It was about making sure no one else was ever left waiting on a roadside while time slipped away. Days later, Marcus stood outside St. Mary's recovery wing, watching the little girl smile faintly at her parents. Her tiny hand clutched her mother's fingers, fragile yet alive. Relief softened Marcus's heart, but the memory of flashing blue lights still burned behind his eyes. The younger officer approached, holding a folder. "Internal Affairs took my report. Collins is under investigation. They've already pulled him off duty." Marcus exhaled slowly, the weight in his chest lifting slightly. Good. He should never be in a position to hold someone's life hostage again. The officer hesitated, then extended his hand. "You saved her, and you opened my eyes. I won't look away anymore." Marcus shook his hand firmly. That's how change starts. One person refusing to stay silent. Later, as Marcus walked through the quiet hospital halls, he paused by a window, looking out at the city lights. He thought of the girl, her family, and the seconds that had almost stolen everything. He had fought for her life in the OR. Now, he realized, he had another battle, to fight for a world where prejudice didn't steal time, trust, or futures. And for Marcus Reed, that fight was only beginning.